Hello all. Join.
Hello there.
Oops, I was
Good
muted.
afternoon.
Hi everyone.
Anne, do you have any idea who the email might have been from that has our appointments? You know, appointment terms in it. I found one from Tony Morris, but I know she hasn't been around for a while, like about the application. So I was trying to look for my term and I can't find the email, but I'm not sure who it would be from in the county.
Can you all hear me now? Oh, you can? Okay, thanks, Phil. I can see you shaking your head. Margaret, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. I was muted. I was going to say, I think Andy will have that information. I know I didn't have it, which is why I wanted to compile it. I was sort of reviewing the charge and I wanted to make sure, you know, I had all the information we needed in it. Jesse had an earlier version of that Google Doc, and so I updated what I could, but I noticed that the website needs to be updated as well with some information.
Okay.
So thank you for looking into that.
I'm not sure if Andy is going to be on the call tonight, but I'll be sure to circle back around with him and get it's a Google Doc regarding the appointments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be terrific, Elizabeth. And do you go by Elizabeth or Liz?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, okay, great. Yeah, that would be super. I'm just trying to make sure that we're straight on when people were appointed in terms. And Teddy was telling me by email she thought I replaced somebody. So I have no idea about my own information. So that would be a good thing for us to just get on top of. So I'm going to try my screen share. And with this weather, my internet is just terrible. So. Peggy, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Okay. Do we want to start? I think it looks like we have everybody and we can go around. Why don't I just read the list so that we can take attendance. So I see Serena is on, Margaret, Donna, Christine, Elizabeth, Jesse, Peggy, Phil, Charisse, Liz, and there's somebody who's called in from 8631. That could be just a public person. I don't know, is Tom Baker will be absent, and Terry said she would be joining us late. So with that, I think we're good to go. So right now, we do not have Teddy.
Can Elizabeth share this? Can EJ share this agenda larger on the screen? I can't make it larger. I can't fill the screen because it's part of her computer, I guess. Great, thank you.
There we go. Okay. So welcome everybody. Nice to see you all virtually. I'm I'm not going to try to do video because I'm afraid I'll disappear. So currently, right now, I am driving the agenda, but if I fail, Elizabeth will take over. So why don't we start with a motion to approve the July minutes?
I make a motion to approve the July minutes as submitted.
And I second
Thank you,
them.
Margaret. Great. All in favor of approving them, say aye.
Aye.
And anybody who doesn't approve, please say nay. Okay, they are officially approved. Thank you all for that. And thank you, Peggy, for once again writing up great minutes. So the first two items under old business, I'm not going to spend any time on. Lance and I have not followed up about reporting local waste and recycling data. I'm not certain that that is still relevant. I think I wanted to check with him on that. I don't think he's on. No.
He's not. He's
so
on
I'm-
vacation this week.
Okay, so I will plan on following up with him, so we'll just carry that forward. I have not heard anything back from Braskem. I will be following up with them, so there was no further update on that. So let's get to the subcommittee report outs. And I'm going to turn it over to Christine and Peggy because they have been working hard on working on a webinar for the library. So do you guys want to update us?
Yeah. So we're really excited. We're going to do it next Tuesday. And I don't know, I think they've said that they've got several people signed up, but the interesting thing is often they record the webinar. So it sounds like people do tune in after the fact. So, so we're excited to have this opportunity. And also it looks like, I don't know, I just emailed Peggy, but the master naturalist, there may be an opportunity for us to also do this for them as well. So,
Oh, that would be great.
so there are a couple other, the Ruritan Club as well. So we're getting a couple other opportunities and so excited about that.
That's great. And can I just ask you guys, how is revising the deck going?
Well, I don't have PowerPoint, so Peggy did that, and we didn't do a lot of revisions, but we made it, because the first one we did focused more for the gardeners. And so we just took a little bit of those, some of those details that were oriented towards them. So we'll see how our timing goes, but most of it's still there. Wouldn't you say, Peggy?
Okay.
Yes, there wasn't really anything that we changed except some of the things that was specifically for master gardeners. And we are trying to keep it to about 35 minutes of Christine and me talking and going through the slide deck and then having like 15 minutes or more of Q&A.
Yeah. So I think you have to assume there's about a minute a slide typically. So I don't know how many slides we had. It was really long when we did the master gardeners thing. They wanted a ton. So I'll just share that with you.
Yeah. We're practicing again on, we're going through it again on Monday. And so I felt we met with the library about it online, and I was thinking there was too much there to get through, but I'll in the time allotted, but I'll be ready on Monday.
I mean, my sense is a lot of the sustainable materials management you can cut way back and just do sort of one, because some of the feedback was that it was too detailed for a lay listener. So I think that part in particular was pretty dense.
Well, one thing that is good is that we will have a PDF that will be made available to the participants. So since it is packed with some great information, that, you know, the information in the deck will be there, and also the resources at the end as well, in that PDF form.
We did add
good.
a couple of resources to the resource list. We added the 2 SWAAC videos. And we added the climate action plan, the county's climate action plan.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. Well, thank you guys so much for doing that. I think this is awesome. I'm really looking forward. Now is probably not the time, but it seems like kind of a shame that we could not be, soliciting interested volunteers for the ambassadors program. I think it's premature to do it because we obviously can't have people there, but I think if we do more of these, that's something to think about. It would be an opportunity to kind of solicit interest in people. Maybe we could just make it generic and say, hey, if you're interested in participating in SWAAC or, any of our recycling programs.
Uh-oh. Did we lose her?
Oh, no.
EJ, you might have to
Yes,
take
we
over.
just lost our fearless leader. Serena, she should be coming back in here pretty quickly. I will pull up the agenda. I'll share my screen for the agenda. Make sure I'm not as talented in Zoom.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, good. Can everyone see my agenda though?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
One thing while we're waiting for Anne to come back, I did look at the website and I thought I had a chance to look at those great videos, and it seems like that, the county website, and thinking, are those videos on the website? I didn't see a link to them, and some way to make that a little bit more prominent, or if they're there, or where are they available for people to see, because they're great.
Yeah, they're cute. I mean, they have a lot of familiar faces from the community and familiar faces and places. And the information's really not outdated.
Mm-hmm. So can Serena answer that question for us?
I'm not sure I can. I don't know the videos you're talking about. And I guess my guidance would be that we would want to find the appropriate page within the department to place that information. So if you could fill me in a little bit on the content, I might be able to tell you where they would be appropriate to go.
They're on the county's YouTube channel, and there are 2 videos there. One is about source separation, and one is more about sustainable materials management and talks about composting.
Yeah, so I think, as a default, we can put them on the SWAAC page, but it might be more appropriate to decide what content page that they would best support the information, and we can put a link to those videos on those pages. So it's up to you. I would just ask that you recommend the best page that you like those links to go up on, and we can certainly get that done.
I haven't looked at, may I ask a quick question? Just on this, I gave input to Emily about 2 weeks ago on the new website, and there was very little from the SWAAC committee. None of the stuff that you had, that the committee had generated before was on it. And Emily told me that it was coming, and I haven't looked at it since. Is there more material from, from the SWAAC committee? You guys did a whole where to send what page,
right,
when you were working with Emily, and I haven't seen that yet either.
I'll work with,
Can I suggest that we take this, that we review the SWAAC webpage, we make a recommendation about these videos, and the subcommittee, is going to have a meeting later this month. Can we take that as an action item for us to work on in that subcommittee meeting? And then we'll come back to Serena with that.
This is Serena again. I'm going to jump in also. So in addition to the SWAAC page, within the FES web section, there's a page on recycling, solid waste and recycling, and recycling FAQ. Those are content areas that, so those are informational, and we were thinking that that information would be appropriate under the department and not necessarily on the SWAAC committee page, so that people can access it as like standalone information. But certainly we could have links back to the SWAAC page and vice versa. So I'd encourage you to look at those pages as well as you kind of think of the totality of the information you want to have there.
Yeah, thank you for that. That sounds great. I think that sounds like an appropriate way to handle it. I think at least I have not spent much time on the website, so I think that's a good task for our subcommittee to look at and think about that. So good. So we have a lot to cover today, so I want to make sure we have a guest coming at 5, so I want to make sure we get through everything. Then I want to move to the next agenda item, which is from Liz on promoting the IV MOOC. And Liz just stepped away from her computer. I was going to say, Liz, you want to give us some background on that?
Well, we had Ravanna and Phil has been talking to Phil on and off, and he's of course been talking with Ravanna staff about how to promote the IVMUC when we get it all opened and everything is complete. And I was a little bit worried about doing it early in the game because of all the COVID stuff. I just thought it would get lost in the you know, in everything else. And also with all the money problems the county was having, I didn't want to focus on opening something else up. So now's the time we need to schedule this and figure out how we're going to do it. Clearly, we can't have a grand opening like we had for the transfer station when we had speeches and people there and all that, as much as I would like to have that. So I really wanted to hear from the committee as to your ideas. I did talk to Teddy. She suggested the committee doing a little video of the of people using it and showing people where, you know, where everything is and putting that up on the website. Ravanna would do news releases, the county would do news releases, we would coordinate that. Lance had also, and maybe Phil can comment on this, but Lance had mentioned to me quite a while back that we would put a sign up on 64 directing people to the transfer station and the recycling center. I don't know if that was ever followed up from before earlier this summer when Lance said that. So basically what we're looking for, and I think Phil would like to hear from the committee, ideas for how do we do an opening in the world of COVID to promote the new recycling center.
I think we could promote it to the audience that's currently using McIntyre, because there may be people visiting McIntyre that Ivy would be more convenient to. So I think even having a big banner made and putting it on the fence at McIntyre might, you know, reach a captive audience.
Can I add on to that thought? You know, one thing that, you know, we do sort of electronic blasts and stuff, but I was wondering, do you think it would be at all useful or helpful, or is this too old school? Do something like also put a banner out at the Crozet Library, you know, sort of along Crozet, there at the intersection in front of, this would require getting involved with the school system a little bit, but there in the fence in front of Western Albemarle, the high school. I'm just saying, just something that people see. It doesn't have to be out there for years, but like a month or so, just to say, kind of while people
I totally agree, Phil. And I also think Ivy Depot, we should hit Ivy. I think, I think the language on the sign is, you know, we really want to be enthusiastic and we brought, you know, recycling closer to you or whatever. But I think that's a great idea, especially, I don't know if Old Trail would let us, but that would be a good place to put it.
Well, that's what I was thinking, Western Albemarle. Get them, if not Old Trail, then get them where they get in and out of it, you know?
Yeah, right.
Okay, why don't...
So the other thing I would say is, and Serena, you can probably answer this, but if the county has social media. I think that, you know, websites are great, but a lot of people just look at Instagram, LinkedIn, you know, Facebook or social media, I mean, Twitter. So I don't know if we can do some sort of push through social media for it as well.
Yeah, we absolutely can. If you want to direct any of those, any content my way. I was also thinking with the Crozet master plan update, it might be possible to, you know, we have a lot of information going out on that. We could tag something onto those emails as well as a kind of bonus content.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
And could we also do something on the news section of the county's new webpage? You know, on the homepage, there's a news section.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you just share with me the content, and then I can think of all the different opportunities, and then I can work with EJ to get that information back to you all, and then you can decide what channels are appropriate and which ones you want me to pursue.
And I think, I mean, I don't know if this is allowed in the era of COVID, but could one of the news stations interview Phil?
Oh, we've done that. We've done that a couple times
Okay.
with other things, so they seem to be amenable.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
talking.
I mean,
I'm
Welcome to
sorry,
pick
it was Doc. Oh,
So you're welcome to pick a more photogenic representative, though.
maybe
Phil,
one
you're
of the
awesome.
people-
I think it would be great to have them come out and they could see it and interview you. And yeah, it's something to really be proud of, I think.
We have a new Channel 29 news person who is interested in recycling, and I just talked to her about this the other day, and I think she would be very much, she told me to let her know when we would like to do something about Ivy. So I think there's definitely interest, and also it might be, I'm just throwing this out, if the committee wants to do a little video or something like that, it might be nice to also have one of the committee members or somebody like that interviewed for the new Ivy MUC, just to sort of, you know, get out there that we have a committee for that. So just throwing that out.
And what about sending something to, is it John Cruikshank? Christine, I think you had reached out to him too. You know, he sends out that weekly or bi-weekly sort of environmental update thing that might hit, you know, some interested people as well.
Yeah.
Sean Tubbs is on there too, and he would be very much happy to send it out on his email list too. I'll speak for him.
I have a question about web searches and how it could come up in web searches. I don't know what I was looking at, but I researched recycling aluminum cans. And the first thing to come up was Gerdau, followed by McIntyre. And Ivy wasn't an option that comes up when you do a search like that. So is there a way to ensure that, you know, aluminum can recycling, whatever else, glass recycling, that those things, when you search
engine
those
optimized,
things,
yeah.
that Ivy would also come up as an option.
I think that has to do with the meta tags on the site. So that is it's something we should do, but I think that we can't do it. We're just going to have to ask somebody to do it. So maybe you all know her name, but there is a woman on NPR who does local stories that are kind of local to Central Virginia. I can't remember, Sandy Houseman, I think her name is. Yeah. So I think if we could get her to talk about, you know, recycling in Albemarle County or do a little segment on it, that would be awesome, because I think that's a really great audience for us.
She's already done some on recycling, so I know she's interested in it.
Okay.
I don't know who wants to contact her.
Phil has a personal connection, I think.
There
Don't you, Phil?
You're muted.
You're muted, Phil.
Neighbors, yeah. We live next door. Our dogs played together. I didn't see it. I'll reach out to her.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Can I
All right, so
items? Can we go ahead and throw a draft of a banner together here? I will send it back to this group
Sure.
thing. Okay.
Yep, that'd be perfect.
Okay. I'll
Phil,
do that.
what is your expected timeline to have all this going and coordinated, Phil?
Banners seem to be running a little slow. Hopefully we could get them put out, get them in about 2 weeks, something like that. So it would be, I think if you want to be safe, talk the first week of September or something like that, but or last week of August.
We ought to, somebody should reach out to Terry Kent, just since she used to work for Urbana and she's into this, and she has always said that publicity and public outreach is her thing. So she might have ideas
Well,
too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so if the folks on the subcommittee could let me know, I proposed a time for our next meeting. I promise I will be available on it. If you all can just email me and let me know if that'll work, or we'll, offline we'll coordinate on a time. I just wanted to throw a straw man out. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse for the next report out. And then there's an action item or a point there, Phil, for you to talk about the Better Bin pilot too.
So yeah, I already apologize. I was going to schedule a meeting to review the public feedback of the climate action plan from Andy. Ultimately, what we ended up doing was myself and Jeffrey went through it because they had already coded all of it according to sort of priority, near term, long term, and things like that to make sure that that feedback was coded correctly. I didn't think that was an exercise necessarily everybody needed to go through. And then I got kind of buried under reopening and had to put on my HVAC COVID hat for a while. So I don't have much of a report out this month. We did work on the climate action stuff. We need to get back to Andy to confirm that everything's coded correctly. And then we will carry the conversation forward. I'm happy to have a meeting this month, even if it's just a schedule check-in. But I want to take everybody's temperature on that before I commit to times and dates. Thoughts?
I'd be happy to go to another meeting. Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking, one, what are we talking about? And then if we have content, when shall we do that? I'm happy to wait until we get through the update on the Better Bin and see if maybe that generates some work for the operations group. I'd also like to add that Terry Kent intends to join our subcommittee, which means it will be myself, Tom, and Terry, 3 voting members calling into these meetings. I'm not sure if that represents a public meeting or it's public Zoom, or if we can just proceed.
I think that's a public one. I guess that's that sounds like a public meeting to me.
I concur. And so with that said, if we need to do a public meeting, I'd like to reach out to my friends at the county to help me schedule that. Otherwise, I will do a Zoom meeting amongst friends, which will not be open to the public.
Jesse, I'll work with Serena to make sure that whatever date you plan on for the public meeting, that you've got everything you need to make it right and tight.
I'm proposing August 28th at 1, if that's a good time for everybody to check in. I haven't cleared that with Terry yet, but if that works for y'all, that would work for me. We can do a check-in on the Better Bin system or app, and we can talk about any other additional issues that y'all want to get into.
Good for me.
Okay, well, if that works for everybody, I will send out an invite just as a placeholder, and then I will wait for a more formal invite with a Zoom link that includes the public features.
Sounds good, Jesse.
Thank you.
I have a potential conflict with that, but I have to do some more checking because I don't have the time on there. But anyway, I'm not a voting member, so I'm not as important. But anyway.
I can scooch it either way. We're very flexible. I'll
Okay.
start with 1 p.m. as a placeholder, so that gives everybody time to get lunch. And then we can move it one way or another if it's desired.
I'll check the timing on this other one that I just have on the calendar for the afternoon, but it doesn't have a time on it.
I see.
I'm available that day.
And I have a deadline that day, Jesse, so.
So maybe you're tentative. I'll tell you what, if I can help with the deadline, you let me know.
Do you know anything about housing?
As much as I knew about solid waste.
All right.
He's very inventive.
All right.
Phil, if you want to give us an update on the Better Bin app and maybe getting into that again.
Okay, thanks. I sent around, well, twice now. Sorry about that, by the way, for anybody got excited there for a moment. I don't know why I thought the meeting was last week. So we took the app that I think a rough version of it you all saw, and we put it out amongst, I don't know, I think it was about 10 people, sort of as a beta test phase 1. And I think the Better Bin folks, Michelle and her team, really took to heart what the comments that the feedback that people had given. And so they've got another version out. And because that was the first step or first phase was so successful, they'd like to have it beta tested again, which frankly for me suits me very well because, I want it to be really good before it hits the street, so to speak. So I would like to ask if the SWAAC committee, some of you who were part of the other team, but anyway, if the SWAAC committee could act as that second team of people to beta test this app. I don't know how to get it on and, show you it online. But that sheet that I sent around has a link to it. I think you'll find it's a lot more intuitive how it works. They've added both the recycling and the composting, just with sort of a toggle buttons at the top. Yeah, it has some ability to offer some outreach in it. There's sort of an ad space at the bottom, which right now we have mocked up for the fall HHW day. This stuff like that. So I guess I'd really like everybody to, if they could, upload the app and test it out and try it for, I don't know, let's say 2 weeks, get responses or thoughts back by the 27th. Any thoughts on that? And all you need to do is go to that link, not on your computer, but on your cell phone. So like open this on your smartphone and go to that link, and then you can download it to your home screen.
That works for me, and I'll ask Jeffrey to give it a whirl as well.
Please. I would like to keep this.
I'll do the thing.
Not
We
to
can put that on the agenda for the communication subcommittee as well, is, have us all review it and let you know.
Yeah, if I could ask a favor, if you've got 1 or 2 other people you want to try it, that's fine. If you've got a few close 100 or 200 friends, please don't share it with them, just because then it gets hard to manage the feedback.
Right.
And then it's also
Okay.
hard to correct it in the field.
Phil, do you know why it wants to access the camera? Is that necessary? Is that part of its functionality?
Yeah, so when what this thing does is you go into the store, hopefully, or at least at the recycling bin after you'd already bought a product, and you open the app, and when it accesses the camera, you'll see that it's got sort of this image of a barcode there. Well, you shine that onto the barcode of the product. Oh, I don't have anything. And it'll either
I see, yeah.
It'll either know it or it won't know it. And if it knows it, it'll tell you how to recycle that product in its packaging. And if it doesn't know it, it'll give you a chance to fairly easily send that information back to Better Bin, in which case then they're going to actually look for that information so that the database gets smarter. I want to be really honest. I think at first that's going to be a fairly slow process, especially if they're getting thousands of products. You know, for somebody to sit and say, okay, the wrapper goes here, the bottle goes there, this and that and the other thing, that may be a little slower than they hope on the front end. And I would want everybody just to be patient. The long-term goal that Better Bin has, and I don't know how to explain this because it sounds really sci-fi to me, but is when you do that, take that picture, and if it doesn't identify the UPC code on it, that the computer will actually do image recognition and figure out what it was, and you won't have to do anything, which seems like too NSA for me. I don't like computers that do that much detailing, because the next thing is I just take pictures of people and it tells me all about them too, right? Anyway, I'll put my conspiracy hat away, but anyway, that's where it's headed.
So even though you prefaced that with that, the fact that it may take them a while to get to things that are sent to them, do you still want us, anything that we scan that's not in there, you still want us to send it to them? Just know that it will take them a while to get it integrated.
Yeah, so, you know, she's sitting in Wisconsin, and where she's demoed it up till now has been in places in Wisconsin. I shopped at Harris Teeter, and I came home and I just took everything that I had bought in groceries that was not, you know, produce or meat. And I just sat there with the phone and click, 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 click. And the reason being is she doesn't have Harris Teeter products in her database because they don't have Harris Teeter. She probably doesn't have Food Lion or she may or may not have Trader Joe. And the only way to sort of feedback that needs to get in there is for the community to say, this has to be in there, you know. And so that kind of information is being uploaded into the database now. You know, it's a beta test. It's early on with it. I think it could be a neat tool for us in recycling. Not that I don't have any illusion that this is a solves every problem tool, but I think it's just another tool to have. At some point, you know, one of the future renditions of this is going to allow us to reach out into people's pockets and say, hey, remember, it's HHW Day on Saturday. It's going to be more, or things like, oh, McIntyre's closed because of snow on, you know, today, or hopefully we'll be able to use this more interactively as well.
Do you think, Phil, that this could be used to, I'm hoping that, you know, if we start taking pictures, for instance, of milk cartons and things like that, it could reduce our contamination by just getting those kinds of products in there to say, you can't recycle that here. And I guess that's the hope. That's
the only reason really the core reason I want to do this is, you know, if we can get, I don't know what our contamination rate is right now. It's something I probably should try and figure out. But if we could get that down, knock a couple more points off of it, you know, and then with an ambassadors program, knock a couple more points off that, you know, we have a chance then of actually getting material that's can go for top dollar, which.
So one of the reasons why I ask that is if we knew, because I don't know what the most common products that are contamination products that Ravenna gets. So if we knew those kinds of predominant contaminations, all of us that download this app to use it for the next couple of weeks could really concentrate on getting those most common things identified. So
I agree. Like at some point I actually do need to do sort of like a dumpster dive. When we pull a can and dump it at the paper sort, it would be useful to sit and pull out a couple yards of it and just catalog it, even if it's grossly, it's 95% of this and 2% of that or whatever. It would be helpful to know what our contamination rate is. Sort of a microcosm of the whole, this dilemma SWAAC's had all along is it's hard to fix something when you don't know how broke it is.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
But, and then the other part I like about this is it also does sort of the same thing, but for composting. So I think right off, people have a lot of questions about composting. Can I put plastic forks in it? Maybe if they're biodegradable ones or, the compostable ones, things like that.
So Phil, that's actually what I went to. I had lunch from Pearl Island and they use compostable serviceware. And I went to grab my cup to look and see if it had a barcode on it to be able to scan and it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't utilize that aspect. You don't scan for composting, but let's say you look at it and you go, I can look up prepared foods, say, and trust me, I know this is now not going to be in there, but see if it has plates and things in there. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not finding it, but it'll help you when you're looking at stuff, hopefully. I have to see where it has. I haven't used the composting much, which sounds bad. Household.
Yeah, that's fine. And we don't need to spend time. I just wonder because that can, that's so important for people to know because that's such common contaminants with compost, but it's hard to identify. It can be hard to identify.
No, I agree with you. And I don't think this would be that like to put in stuff like in this to have a category called whatever plates and things like that, whatever. I don't think that's that necessarily that hard to build.
Okay, yeah, it's under other.
Okay. Oh, I see. Biodegradable containers.
So we will each take a look at the Better Bin app using the link that you've provided, providing feedback by the 27th that maybe we can discuss on the 28th.
That would help.
Okay. And hi, Terry. We proposed a meeting of the operations subcommittee on the 28th at 1 p.m. If that's good for you. It will be a public meeting because me, you, and Tom make a threesome. That came out weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And are we supposed to check the Better Bin app on a phone? Is that preferable?
Yes.
That's what people are going to be doing, right? Okay.
Yeah. So you helped us beta test it the first go round. That'll be nice. You see that how they answered sort of the comments from before. I think it made huge strides, but best many voices in this will help.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks.
Cool. I think that was it for us.
Hi. Well, moving on to planning and vision, I didn't realize that Teddy and Navarre both would be absent today, but you all received the little summary I did of the legislation that was considered and passed in or failed in 2020. And there are a couple of things that are really interesting that give localities an ability to make some decisions, like taxing plastic bags. And next, I mean, it looks like it's going to pass banning the use of expanded polystyrene for serviceware food service throughout the Commonwealth, throughout the state. That's a state mandate if that gets passed, which would be a very good thing, because that helps us reduce the amount of trash. It helps it just removes those things from the waste stream, and they don't have a good place to go now other than the landfill. So plastic bags, you've seen the news stories that it forcing people to pay for a bag does really cut down on the number of bags that are used. It's not going to make them go away completely, but it can make a really serious dent. So obviously, if Albemarle County did that, we would want to be on the same page with the city. And but that's something we can discuss in the future. They're still working out details of that legislation, how it would work. And, even if we wanted to, we couldn't do it tomorrow. The state's not ready for it.
Peggy, maybe as an action item for the Planning and Vision Subcommittee, you all could just, and I don't know, Sharice, if you know anything about this, because I know you're TJPDC, but give us an update on, is the city considering doing anything? Because I think that would be really important to know what they're thinking of in light of these new developments.
Mm-hmm.
And
I honestly don't know offhand. It's something I can check into.
Okay.
But I am not sure.
Okay. That would be really helpful. Just so we're on top of it.
I think, our committee did meet on phone, and I think Teddy was going to talk to some folks in the city about, I don't know if it was Crystal or Susan, to find out whether they were tracking on that at all or thinking about it, or it was even on their radar.
Okay, good. Go ahead, whoever's talking.
I was just going to say, I talked to Teddy the other day, and she was interested in the community about this, and she was interested in the committee writing a letter to the board asking us to begin the process. But obviously, if the state hasn't really completed their work on what it's going to look like, then it's premature to ask the board to go forward on that. And I'm just wondering, Peggy, could you send us out a little something about where the state is on that legislation and what the problem is, just so we kind of know the timeline?
Sure.
And then if we're tracking it and the committee wants to do this, once the state figures out what they want to do, we would probably need to write an ordinance. And it's going to take a long time because it's going to have to get in the work plan and all that kind of stuff. So, we might want to start it knowing that it's take at least a year, if not more, to get it into the work plan.
I can't remember. I think in the little summary I did, which I haven't looked at this in a month. So, but I think there was some date in there about what they,
I'm looking at it.
Maybe it's in the full text. It says that you can't do it sooner than X date because the treasurer is not ready, something like that. But I'll get the details.
And then can you clarify the styrofoam? You said that they did pass that one?
They passed it. It's very strange. They passed it, but they passed it saying that it has to be passed again this year in order to move forward. I think, maybe
All
there were
right.
some legislators that really weren't wild about it, kind of grudgingly went along with it or something, and they want to make sure that after the elections, they can still, they could pull it back. I don't know.
All right, so let's get an update on that. I'm very conscientious of time. We have 12 minutes and we have a fair amount of other stuff to do under governance. So if you all are all set on planning and vision, I'd like to move us forward.
Go ahead.
Okay. So since Lance or Andy are not here, we won't have an update from them. So I think that the agenda that you all are seeing was the first one I sent out. I did send a revision. So it's that time of year where we need nominations for the SWAAC chair, vice chair, and secretary. And the second bullet you see is supposed to be out to the left. It's not related to the SWAAC chair. It was just something else you saw. I sent you a, oh, hold on, Teddy's calling me. Let me just see what she's saying. Hey, Teddy. Hello? Yeah. Okay. You know what? Let me put you on speaker, okay? Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me? Oh. Hey, Teddy, can you hear me? No, I think we lost Teddy. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to text her. So for some reason, I don't think Teddy can get onto the Zoom. That's what I'm picking up. Anyhow, Teddy, by her call just now, just nominated me for SWAAC chair. So I don't know if that was done intentionally, roundabout way. So I could use some help on how we do this process for, nominating and voting for chair, vice chair, and secretary. So, because I haven't been around the block enough to do this. So I don't know, Peggy or Jesse, you want to weigh in on this? No, nobody wants to weigh in?
I just
okay.
think somebody needs to second Teddy's, I don't know that Teddy can actually make the motion if she's not here. I'm not sure, but two other committee members could certainly make that motion. One could make it and then the other person could second it and then you all could vote on that.
Well, is Anne wanting to do it for another year? That's what we haven't heard.
Don't ask.
Well, I would be happy to do it, but again, I need a strong vice chair to back me up in case I can't be here. And I actually wanted to also talk about subcommittee appointments because I would be very happy to give up my leadership of one of the subcommittee and turn that over to somebody. So I know, Terry, you had said you wanted to be on ops, but I also know that you like communications. So I am, I'm willing to run and, be nominated for chair again. I'm going to have to lean on somebody to help out. This has been a lot more work than I thought, but, I've really enjoyed doing it. So I'd be happy to do it again.
Well, I'm very pleased about that. And I would make the motion, Anne, to have you continue as the chair. And I can lend my support wherever I can.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
Jesse, I can second that.
Okay. Can we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Anne is abstaining. So anybody opposed? Okay. Well, thank you all. I appreciate that. And how about for vice chair? Christine, do you want to continue to be vice chair?
I'm happy to do that unless somebody else would like to step forward to do it.
So I would like to nominate Christine to continue as vice chair. And I guess
Sure, and
I'll put a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, great, thank you. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? All right, Christine, vice chair. And lastly, and I will tell you, this is a big job being secretary, and Peggy has done an amazing job. So I want to make sure that I ask her, Peggy, do you have any interest in continuing being secretary?
If there's anyone who would like to do it, I'm happy to relinquish it. But if there's no one who's very enthusiastic about it, I'll stay on with my chair and vice chair and do it another year.
Then I would like to
So-
nominate Peggy to serve another term as secretary. She's done a fantastic job.
She really has, thank you. And also, she makes being a chairperson so much easier, I can't tell you. So I would like to second that nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. So we got through that for the record.
May I say something really quick? Teddy texted me and said that she is on the phone, but the Zoom won't let her unmute. So I don't know if that's anything that Serena or EJ could handle to help her. Maybe she's just, she's not, she's in the people who can listen and not participate group is what I'm thinking. But I just want
The 8631 number.
I wonder if she called into the public, like through the public access number.
Yeah, that's what I think. She probably.
Yeah. So then I think there's probably, yeah.
She's not in the public access number. Is
Okay.
her, is that her number, the 8631?
Yes, I think so.
Star 9, I believe, is how you.
Elizabeth, can you unmute her as the administrator?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm trying to and I cannot. So EJ?
Yeah, I'm filling with it, and I'm not administrator, so I'm a participant right now as well. But I will say that that number was there at the beginning of the meeting, so unless Teddy was here at the beginning, I would say that that's not her.
Her number is 242-8631.
Oh, what the?
Yep, that's Teddy.
Teddy.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know, there's something. Hey, Teddy, if you can hear me, try *6 on your phone, and just to see if that will, that sometimes for some systems. So
Star 9 is what we use for the board meeting.
I don't know what is going on with that. There are other numbers she could call in. But anyhow, we're going to have somebody joining us in 4 minutes. So I just want to quickly go over these last two. I was reviewing the charter or charge, and I sent out a bit of an update about the role of SWAAC members to Tom and Navarre and Terry, because they're all relatively new. I couldn't remember if they were all involved in the conversations that we had last September or August about, what it means to be committed to the SWAAC and the expectation for participation in subcommittees. So I reviewed the charge, and I realized one of the pieces of information I didn't really have was an understanding of people's appointments, like when people joined, how long they've been on, so on and so forth. So Jesse very kindly sent me what he had. I sent it out to you all to update it. If you don't have answers, that's fine. I think what we'd like to do then is go to Elizabeth to ask Andy, what we could fill in, because one of the things that Teddy had identified is that some of your names are missing from the website, and some of the terms are unclear. So we wanted to get this all in one place so that we could give it to Serena, so we could update that. So I appreciate it if you would all just take a peek at that and then let me know when you've done it, and then I'll send it on to Serena and Elizabeth. The last thing is, and we don't have time for it today, so I'm going to move this towards next month, is I'd like to revisit our subcommittee charters and goals. I sent those out. with the agenda, and I'd just like us to have a nice, robust conversation about them. Are they still on track? Do we want to stick with those goals? Do we want to alter them based on what's happened this year? So we don't really need to discuss that, but I would like people to think about that. And so then along with that, that I would like to discuss today is people's interest in subcommittees. Like, do people want to move? Do they want to do something different? And I know, Terry, you had mentioned that, your background is really in communications. And so I wanted to say, if you wanted to be on this, communication subcommittee, you would be more than welcome. And I would be happy to roll into the operations subcommittee. Navarre confirmed he'd like to stay on vision and planning. And I have not heard from Tom, but I'm pretty confident Tom is going to want to stay on operations. But I think if you all want to shift somewhere, please speak up.
Can I just say one thing too? Given our incredible lack of money at this particular moment in time, the operations might not be as active. I don't know that for sure. Obviously, the better bin issue is something the operations can work on, but I just want to throw that out as a possibility. I'm honestly not quite sure. Jesse could comment, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm never lacking comments. But yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like a little bit of our work has been tapering, and we've been preparing products for others to then work on. If there's anything that we need to dig into so that we can help the other committees move a policy or a idea forward, let us know how we can help.
I would say getting the capture rates, getting a handle on the contamination rates would be a really good thing for that committee to focus on, because it does link so closely to the value proposition of recycling and also what we want to communicate. So, I would put that out in front of the ops committee as a very high priority, is to let's really understand what the contamination rate is by commodity. And how would we alter our communication and our ambassadors program to address it? So I really like that Phil brought that up.
So yeah, we will talk about that next Friday.
Okay.
And I'm willing to serve.
You're welcome to operations.
I'm willing to serve in whatever capacity, if Anne, you've been chair and, you don't want to lead anymore, like maybe we can talk about that when we meet tomorrow before I make a final decision. But yeah, I'm just willing to do whatever.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. All right. So if people are interested in shifting or changing, please email me and let me know. And we can talk about it more in the next meeting next month. So anyhow, I see Scott has joined us. So I would like us to now turn to our guest speaker, who is Scott DeFike from the Glass Packaging Institute. Hi, Scott. You're muted. Oh, there you are. And Scott, how about if you have a screen share, Elizabeth, can he take over the screen if needed? And I will just turn it over to you, Scott. Oh, I'm not hearing him.
I should have stopped sharing. Yep.
Okay.
And now Scott should be up and running. But
okay, Scott, I can't hear you.
Maybe.
How's this? Is this better?
There you go.
Yes,
okay, sorry.
That's perfect.
There's a button on my on my headset that accidentally gets clicked off every once in a while. So sorry about that.
And welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I'm looking straight at the screen, but every once in a while when I start sharing my screen, I lose the ability to see all of you. So I'm trying to get that back real quick. Just a second, so that I can actually see your faces when because there's a window that disappears. There we go. Okay, now I'm back. And I got a dual screen set up here for the work at home. No, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'll give you a little bit of background about me, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on a presentation as much as, answer questions and talk about what's going on in your area and what our ideas are from the glass industry. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I am Scott Fife. I'm the president of the Glass Packaging Institute. GPI is the trade association that represents the glass container manufacturers in the United States, really in North America. We're a North American trade association, so we do have plants in Canada and Mexico, but we're made up of the companies that make glass bottles and jars. And maybe as importantly, the supply chain that feeds into the making of glass containers. Okay, so not just the raw material suppliers, but recycled glass, because recycled glass is a key component of making new bottles and jars. And it's an issue that we struggle with in Virginia. You know that maybe better than I do. I have now been on the job for a year. Next week will be my 1-year anniversary as leading GPI. We are headquartered in Arlington, Virginia. I have lived in Virginia for 30 years now, but originally from Texas, and have recently come from a variety of other trade associations, but also working on Capitol Hill. So I've worked for governors, I've worked in state legislatures, I've worked in Washington, D.C., and I've worked downtown for trade associations, manufacturing trade associations for about a decade now. In addition to the primary hat that I wear, the one that pays the bills as the leader of the trade association, I wanted to talk about 2 other organizations that are important in the discussion that I'm a part of. One is the Glass Recycling Coalition. And as you can see on this slide, GPI, this is our website. You can reach me at sdefife@gpi.org. But the Glass Recycling Coalition is a coalition of multiple industries that all work with recycled glass. Okay, so not just glass containers, but fiberglass, mineral replacement, road bed, all the other potential uses for glass once it's been through the consumer process, and the players who are involved in that. So everybody from Diageo or a couple wineries or beer companies through to the waste management companies that pick up the material and recycle the material inclusive. Okay. And the GRC's role is really to educate, pull together information that makes sense about glass. There's a lot of misinformation about glass out there. Some of our MERF friends help spread that misinformation about glass, but I'll talk about that a little bit. And work to find common solutions, pilot projects, and things of that nature. Both GPI, before I got to GPI, and then the Glass Recycling Coalition have funded what we call intervention projects. A lot of people don't like the word intervention, but we think of it as an intervention project, something that helps spur action or solve a problem in a local area that is looking to do more glass recycling. And so we have funded things from drop-off bins, equipment at a MRF, glass cleaning equipment at a MRF, and things of that nature. And in the past year, the GRC spun off a 501c3 called the Glass Recycling Foundation. That's the 3rd bucket on the right of the screen. And then they made me the president of the GRF board as well. So I have the Glass Packaging Institute Trade Association hat where I lead that, but I'm also the chairman of the board for the Glass Recycling Foundation. The GRF now is the group that's taking in money that will do matching grant proposals. They've kind of moved that over from the GRC, which was just a loose coalition of industries, over to a formal 501c3, the Glass Recycling Foundation. And so I can talk to you about any and all of the different components of what's going on in the glass industry as we work to solve some of the key problems about getting more glass back into the supply chain. And I'll stop there and see if you have any questions about GPI, GRC, or GRF before I go on. Ann? I saw you, Ann, I saw your picture light up, so I thought maybe you had a question, but.
No, I think I'm swirling my mouse.
Okay, got it.
So if no questions, I would keep going.
All right.
Just everybody remember you have to unmute yourself so you can talk.
I just want to say I'm really curious about the foundation, what you're doing, but you've got a lot to talk about, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, sure. And I'll make some points at the end and leave some time for Q&A. This is a general map about the infrastructure, the glass infrastructure in the United States, right? And I'm going to zoom in really close on our region soon, but just to give you an idea, there are 10 states. They're in red. We forgot to put Hawaii on there. Hawaii has a bottle bill also, but there's 10 states across the country that have what we call redemption programs, bottle bill programs. The volume of material that comes back in a bottle bill program and the quality of the material that comes back in a bottle bill program is so good that these 10 states supply almost 60% of the cullet that ends up back in a glass plant for bottle to bottle recycling. Okay. Now, California is one of those. New York's another one of those. Two big states, of course, right? But the quality is really high and the volume is high, and you can see where the glass plants are. But you can also see there's a good amount of space here in the Midwest and the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic where we don't have bottle bill programs. I'm not here to push a bottle bill. If the citizens of Virginia want to do a bottle bill, we'll support and work to help. But there are some classic problems, at least political problems with a bottle bill that make it really difficult to get political support for them, usually from the retailers and from the beer wholesalers, to be quite honest with you. Those are the traditional places because they don't think of themselves as being in the business to take stuff back. They want to sell things and don't really want to take things back. We're having real issues right now, even the post-COVID world in Iowa. The grocers and some of the grocers in Iowa are really pushing back right now due to COVID. So these bottle bill systems are constantly evolving, and not any one of these is the same as the other. The California system is very different from the Oregon system, very different from the Michigan system. We can talk about some of those if you have questions. But let's zoom in on Virginia, the Delmarva area, and I apologize already because I realized that my graphics person didn't fix the state of Virginia and has kind of included Chesapeake Bay in the landmass there. So as well as Maryland is a little off, but you get the general picture. These are plants, right? So all of these, Ardagh, Owens, Illinois, Strategic Materials, these are glass. Strategic is a glass processor. You're not going to see Rocky Mountain. They're a Colorado beer company. Gallo is largely the California wine. They have their own glass subsidiary that makes a lot of the wine bottles for Gallo Glassing on the West Coast. But in Virginia, you've got the Owens, Illinois plant in Toano, Virginia, which is near Williamsburg, and in Danville, which is right down there on the border with North Carolina. There's also several plants in North Carolina, and Strategic Materials, which is the largest glass processor. So you can't just take a bottle and stick it back in the furnace. You have to clean it, make sure the label and all the other material comes off, and break it down into a spec that works inside a furnace, right? It's very important to get the batch mix in the furnace right so that you don't break the furnace. The furnace is the heartbeat of any glass plant. But material has to be cleaned up to spec before it can be used. And across the country, and you can see in New Jersey, there's a facility, but also in Pennsylvania, there's some processing facilities and glass plants. The reason that I want to, I always like to use the map, and our circles here are 100-mile and 250-mile concentric circles out from where the plants are or where the Strategic Materials processing plants are. So while we have 2 glass manufacturing plants in Virginia, we don't have any processing in Virginia, and Fairfax's crusher doesn't count. Okay. Now I'm very happy that Fairfax has taken the lead on the Purple Bin program, and Arlington, where I live now, is contributing to the Purple Bin program, Alexandria, and it's been very positive to shaking up the system and getting the dialogue going in Northern Virginia, and people are curious about this and what's going on here. But there isn't really a glass processor in Virginia. Now, we can make it work without a glass processor in Virginia, but the state of Virginia's policies are holding us back, right? Virginia, as many of you may know, is the second largest importer of municipal solid waste in the United States after Pennsylvania. Michigan is third. A lot of this material is coming from New York and New Jersey and flowing south. But landfill policies are fairly wide open in Virginia. And the biggest competitor to recycling glass is landfill. The landfill operators like it in their landfill. They can get paid by weight, and they can use it as alternate daily cover. And Virginia actually gives them recycling credit for diversion and the use of glass as alternate daily cover. So there's very little incentive for the landfill operators, who happen to also probably own many of the hauling and MRF sorting facilities, to actually invest in glass recycling equipment at their MRFs, because they can just take it, turn the truck the other direction, put it in the landfill, get diversion credit for it, and get paid by weight. Okay, I've started having these conversations with policymakers in Richmond, because what you can do as a local government entity, or what Arlington or Alexandria or Fairfax can do, is made more difficult. Your negotiating position is made more difficult by state policies that incentivize landfilling. Okay. And we're going down that path of talking to them about alternative policies. So if the MRFs, the sorting facilities, have no real incentive to invest in glass cleaning equipment, but citizens, at least in the Northern Virginia area, were dutifully putting their glass in their curbside cart and having it picked up, and a truck would come through, and then, you know, people would try to figure out what was going on with it. Pretty soon word got out eventually that glass was not really being what many people think of as recycled, and it was just merely going to landfill for alternate daily cover. You've seen stories probably about Baltimore and Baltimore County and Baltimore City not disclosing for 7 years that their glass wasn't being recycled and getting in a lot of trouble, right? So people get angry. People want to recycle glass. 90%. We still, year after year, we survey consumers and we survey solid waste managers, and it is always one of the highest scores is like, we know glass is recyclable. Don't try to tell us glass isn't recyclable. What do you know, that we're not buying it. If you tell us glass isn't recyclable, we know there's something else going on here. If you see headlines from people at Republic or Waste Management or, you know, some other companies that say there's no markets for glass, unless we've done our job well and say, hey, there's a glass plant in your state, or there's a glass plant 30 miles from you, what you really should be hearing is there's no market for my trash, right? Because what a MRF will produce, if they say I have a ton of material and only 50% of that ton is actually glass, and the other 50% is gravel, caps, dead animals, bones, ceramics, trash, paper, whatever, I'm paying for a ton of glass, but I'm only getting half a ton of glass, right? And so that's the quality from the MRFs needs to be higher. So we're looking, and I have a flow chart here where this is the average across all of the state. This is 2016 data, but this was the kind of the average flow of material in non-bottle bill states. So a state like Virginia, you could expect on average that right off the bat, and this is just glass, this isn't all the other materials, but from consumers, 43 to 45% of that is going straight to the landfill without ever having a chance to touch it. Okay. In the next biggest chunk is 43% that would go curbside to a MRF, but very little of that ends up coming out to the quality level that can end up back in packaging. Okay. Now, again, this is the average for states that aren't bottle bill states. Virginia is below this average. So this number is more than 50% that's going straight to landfill that we're never even getting a chance to touch. And this number that's ending up anywhere in durable goods or packaging is 10% or lower. So very little of the glass in Virginia is ending up back in a bottle to bottle situation. Yes.
I just have a question about the percentages of glass that's actually going bottle to bottle. Are you able to track it for MRF versus mixed glass drop off versus color separated drop off? Because I would imagine the color, because it's not as contaminated.
Right. So again, this is an average for my non-bottle bill states. In my bottle bill states, 60 to 80% of the glass is going back bottle to bottle. So a majority of the glass is going back bottle to bottle.
Right. But so is more of the glass that is coming out of that's captured in drop off programs able to go back, into bottles or into higher uses than daily cover and stuff like that?
Right. So even here on this one, drop off mixed glass like you're talking about, or even drop off color separated glass, very little of that actually happens in non-bottle bill states. But for instance, 14% is down here in the drop off program, and it looks pretty close to the 13% that's going back to packaging, doesn't it? And I would be willing to bet that the majority of that is happening that way. I don't want to say all of it, because I do know that there are some states like North Carolina that do glass well. So it really depends state to state. North Carolina has improved their situation. Minnesota does glass really well, and they don't have a bottle bill program. In fact, Minnesota's numbers are probably closer to 60 or 70% recovery rate for glass, and a lot of that glass is ending up back in. There is a glass plant in Minnesota that is taking in glass there. So it kind of depends on exactly what's going on in a state, and is there a bottle manufacturer nearby, usually within 200 miles. Yes.
So you know that we are drop off mixed glass, and we obviously have two plants right nearby.
Right, but very little of your drop off mixed glass is probably making it back to any of the plants in Virginia. Because if my understanding is correct, SMI is coming to pick up that material kind of every other month or every quarter or something like that, and taking it to their Wilson, North Carolina facility. Okay. And that's a great facility. It's one of the biggest on the East Coast, and they do it really well, and they clean up your glass. If your drop off glass is going to Wilson, it's among the cleaner glass that's going to Wilson.
Two questions really quick. The North Carolina is doing better because they require restaurants and bars and whatnot to recycle a certain percentage of their glass. Is that correct? And are there other states who are doing that, and are those the states that are doing better?
Yeah, North Carolina is doing better for that. That is one of the particular reasons that they did it. They went through a fairly large. I've actually asked I found the person who wrote the North Carolina study 10 years ago that precipitated the legal change, where they went through a series of legislative efforts in the legislature, and asked her to send me some of the original study materials so that I could work on that and share it maybe in a Virginia setting going forward. But certainly the requirement for on-premise bar and restaurant glass to be separated and recycled, it went a long way to improving their situation. Now they do have 3 plants and a big processing facility there, but even in North Carolina, just 2 weeks ago, the Wilson facility where your glass ends up right now, the local community is the next county over, literally the next county over from the Wilson glass processing plant, decided to drop glass from their curbside recycling because their MRF couldn't handle the curbside glass. And I was like, it's 30 miles away from the biggest glass plant in the mid-Atlantic. Clearly somebody's not telling the mayor, what's going on here. So we're in the middle of writing a letter to the city council. It's a small little town in a small county, east of Raleigh, but educating them on this is a key component, because people don't know that there's a glass plant 30 miles away.
And that glass is going to be made.
I have a question for you just quickly, just to let you know, there's somebody on the line who wants to ask a question, but I'm going to ask you a quick one. So North Carolina has a beverage container landfill ban. Is glass part of that landfill ban?
I don't think they ban glass from landfills. But they're supposed to. So one of the problems in North Carolina is when they wrote the law, they kind of wrote it good on the front end, but they didn't fix it on the back end necessarily. And so they didn't ban the glass from the landfill. And so for the first couple of years, while the bars and restaurants were actually separating the glass, the same truck that came through to pick up their waste was picking up the glass and it was taking it to the wrong place. And so a lot of the glass was ending up in the same facility. But then they created a couple enterprising small businesses turned up creating kind of a glass co-op pickup, kind of what we would call a milk run almost or what I'm hoping in Virginia we might eventually someday call a winery run, and went around to the different bars and restaurants and picked up the glass and took it to a separate glass, aggregation location so that they could then get it to the glass plant. If it ends up at the MRF or in the landfill, for the first couple of years, they were having a problem actually getting the glass over to the processing plant, but they've started to fix that through private enterprise.
Okay.
And I think,
so,
yep, I'm sorry, there were.
I was going to say, Pat Calvert is on the line, and I'm sorry, Pat, I don't know if you are he or she, but feel free to ask your question. Serena, can you?
Yes, I am having the same problem with the unmuting the audio, so I'm trying to unmute the phone lines to get Pat in. We'll see if this works.
And if Pat can't do that, maybe they have the chat feature? Couldn't they ask their question through the chat?
Yeah, I've offered that option as well. But it seems like we're having a
glitch
with Zoom, so I'm going to let you keep going.
Okay.
Okay, so Scott, let's keep going, and we'll see if that question comes in.
Okay. Supervisor Palmer, did I finish your?
Yeah, I just had the one, I was a little bit confused on where the glass we're sending to Wilson ends up. I thought it was ending up into bottles, but you said it was not.
No. I believe that the glass that you send to Wilson is ending up back in bottles.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I think that the majority of Virginia's glass is not.
Okay.
The vast majority of Virginia's glass is not ending up back in bottles.
And can I ask you a question about that Wilson facility, about what goes, is it only the clear that goes back into new containers, or does the 3-mix go into containers as well? How does that work at a beneficiating plant like SMI?
They have the ability to sort the color, so you don't have to necessarily color sort to deliver to the Wilson facility. You may get a better price, or somewhere. Every market is slightly different, right? It depends on the facility that it's going to and who needs what color, right? So in Tawano, but I can tell you that all 3 colors go to Wilson. They can process all 3 colors. There is a need, whether it's in one of the 2 Virginia plants or one of the 3 North Carolina plants, for all 3 colors of glass. Now, East Coast glass manufacturing is a little different in its mix than West Coast. West Coast, you can expect more wine bottles. There's just wine countries out there. There's a lot of wine bottles being made in California, Oregon, and Washington. So they're using more green. Okay. But SMI processes, that facility in Wilson processes all 3 colors, and they have a optical sorter that can sort the colors in the processing facility. So you don't have to provide them with color sorted glass.
Perfect. Thank
you. Now,
you.
in a bottle bill state, people are bringing it in a certain manner, and they've devised the system so that they get a more color separated batches from the very start. And so they can price the clear glass to a facility that's going to use the clear glass, and the green to a different facility, and the amber to a different facility. But a big facility like Wilson is able to do all of it because they're taking in drop-off material from the North Carolina bar and on-premise program, or like your drop-off material, but they're also processing MRF glass there too. So they're doing both. So what do we do when when we're faced with this situation, or worse than this situation? what do we start doing? We start looking for alternatives, right? And for a while, the industry's been debating about do we go down the path of investing in in glass cleaning equipment in every MRF? And there's a whole debate about, well, if they're in the business of doing recycling, shouldn't they be investing in their own equipment to recycle the commodities that citizens want to recycle? But as people can well know, and as I'm sure that you understand, there's the evolving nature of the average ton of recyclables is different every 3 to 5 years, and certainly is different today than it was different 10 or 20 or 25 years ago. And so sometimes the facilities were built in an era where newspaper was the number one recyclable in the bin, and now it's not. And now we have a cardboard issue, much more cardboard than single loose paper. And we need, and if the MRFs haven't adapted as quickly, we as the glass industry have reached the point where we can't really wait for that to fix itself. Okay, so we have started talking about alternative collection methods. And if we can't get a bottle bill through a state legislature, or if there's some other policy agendas that we want to try, we might talk about landfill ban in Virginia. With 2 glass plants in Virginia, maybe we shouldn't be landfilling glass in Virginia, and see if the private sector can step in to figure out how to get that glass, economically to the plants. But in Northern Virginia, the Northern Virginia communities have adopted this, the Purple Bin program, which was largely modeled after the Kansas City area Ripple glass program, which is a vertically integrated program where one company that was affiliated with Boulevard Brewing, which is a craft beer company in the Kansas City area, wanted to make sure that they were giving a sustainability message to their customers, and make sure that recycled glass was a larger part of the bottles that they were using for Boulevard for their brands. They started the Ripple program, which now has 100 or more drop-off locations around the Kansas City metro area. And that glass, because it is mixed color drop-off glass, much like what you're doing in your area and what is happening in Northern Virginia now, is relatively clean and is going to a beneficiation facility that's nowhere near as elaborate as the Wilson, North Carolina plant. Okay, so not only did they've worked with the private sector to start collecting glass at not just county facilities or public facilities or stadiums, but also at private enterprise. Maybe they're the liquor stores or the package stores, the wine and beer and wine locations, or grocery stores and things of that nature. Places that are, using a lot of glass. They've found out a way to put, bins in various sizes of bins in or near those locations, those commercial locations, and they've got an elaborate delivery system to a facility that cleans the glass, processes the glass right there in Kansas City, then takes the material to the glass plant that is making the bottles for Boulevard Brewing. It's a very circular program that they created in Kansas City, and that has spurred people to think about what might be possible in Virginia. Now, Northern Virginia right now, like, we only have 5 of these purple roll-offs in Arlington, and it's 2 million pounds of glass a year. Alexandria put in 5 and has 1.5 million pounds of glass. Fairfax has 12 now, and they're at 4 million. Okay, so they're now aggregating, and little jurisdictions like Falls Church or other jurisdictions are starting to test this out and adding the Purple Bin program to the point where they've aggregated enough really good quality clean glass that glass is now making its way down to Wilson and coming back into bottle-to-bottle plants. Whether those are North Carolina plants or Virginia plants, I don't get to trace every single bottle of which plant it ends up back into, but the Wilson facility can serve Virginia and North Carolina manufacturing plants. It can actually serve probably some Georgia plants as well. But the main point is good quality glass, like you see in these drop-off programs, your programs, the Northern Virginia programs, produces the quality that can go back into bottle to bottle in an economic fashion. So we'd like to increase that, right? And as with virtually every other part of the economy, it's a bit of a chicken and an egg program. We need to create an end market, at the same time that we need to have the supply. I happen to be a big believer in if you build it, they will come. And if there's enough glass in Virginia that's ready to be recycled and kept out of landfills, then people will start looking at Virginia as a potential location for a processing plant. I'm also here to say, though, we can make it work from an industry perspective, from a regional perspective, before we even get a processing plant in Virginia. But if there's enough, and really depends on the size and the kind of quality of glass that's going into it, anywhere from 60,000 tons of glass a year to 120,000 tons of glass a year is enough to lure somebody to build a processing plant.
Okay.
So the Ripple facility may not be doing as much as the Wilson facility, and the Ripple facility is not as elaborate as the Wilson facility because Ripple designed its facility to only take in drop-off glass. Ripple doesn't handle MRF glass. So they're only handling the drop-off glass that would come in these purple bins. But the facility in Wilson's handling MRF glass as well, right? Okay. And it's not my job to pick and choose amongst the different companies about who does what and who gets what contract with whom. But it's our hope that we can, through education and talking about the different metrics and the scalability of these programs, if we can work on both an end market and getting more of the jurisdictions to think, a little bit outside the box and collaborate together, we might be able to pull enough glass from a region that, we can make this viable in Virginia. So specifically, one of the asks that I have, especially in dealing, I wanted to talk to you for many reasons. A, I knew that you had good, clean drop-off glass that at least one point in time you were maybe trying to figure out what you might do with it. I can also answer questions about some of the other outlets for the glass if the Wilson contract is not something that you want to, or if you're looking for other opportunities. I'm not here to create competition for SMI, but I can answer questions about what other outlets there might be or what might be coming if there was a critical mass. But also, you're in the heart of wine country, and it is my first, it was an educated guess. And with a little bit of investigation, I think I've proven my hypothesis a little bit stronger, that most of the wineries in Virginia may not know exactly where their bottles are coming from. They probably don't know where their bottles are coming from. Somebody in the glass industry can probably look at one of those bottles and figure out where they're coming from because they have different markings, and every factory has what they call a punt mark on the bottom that kind of gives you a stamp about where the bottle's manufactured. But if they're using a collective co-op or distributor, which I believe that they are through some of the investigations I've had with the folks in Richmond, as I've tried to educate myself on how the state markets the wine. But you being in the heart of wine country can probably help us put together a conversation where we might start to talk to the wineries in Virginia about collaborating, about ultimately a program. In my wildest dreams is Virginia wine in Virginia bottles using Virginia glass, right? And if maybe even with a marketing campaign that goes along that line, at least a coalition of the willing who would be willing to try it. I'm working with the manufacturers to see how much of a run do you need to make it viable to put a mold together to start doing a run of wine bottles at one of the Virginia plants, and start to use green, come up with a mix that works for Virginia. It doesn't have to be pure emerald green. As most wine bottles are a mix of amber and green. We call it gramber in the industry. There's some percentage of it that's amber versus green. But somewhere in that methodology, we could find the right mix of glass that's available and a batch of wine bottles that could be run, even if it's for a season, because they can change the batch mix in a furnace. It might take a week or two to change the color, but I've seen it done. And over time, it produces kind of a yellowish or a light, a darker, what you might call a colored, glass that is supposed to be flint or clear, but has a little bit of a tint to it. And so they usually takes them about a week to 10 days to change over a batch mix from one color to the next to get all of the other color out before they start making a run of commercial bottles to put out in the market with a different color. But they do it in Tuano. They change over from flint to amber at least twice a year when they do a run. One of their furnaces is usually running beer bottles, and the other furnace is usually running flint or clear glass bottles, either for spirits or for food packaging. I don't know exactly what the Danville. I think Danville's mostly making beer bottles, but it can be done.
Scott, we had a little technical glitch. We have a lot of questions piled up for you.
Okay, sorry.
But I don't know if you want to just go through your last slide quickly, and then because we are actually over time a little bit, but I want to make sure people have this opportunity to ask you questions.
Sorry about that. This is just a series of things that we're working on. We're looking for opportunities to partner and do pilot projects. This would be where the Glass Recycling Foundation would come in. If there's a viable project where a private sector grant matching up with a public sector opportunity to create a pilot, that's the kind of thing that we're envisioning with the Glass Recycling Foundation, and using the coalition to noodle through what the opportunities are to do that kind of thing. And we're raising money right now for the GRF to do that, but we're actively able to solicit or to field grant requests later this year to do pilot projects like this.
Just I'm going to ask you if I can talk to you offline after, since we're almost over this meeting, but just quickly, we've certainly looked at this locally. We've talked to some of our wine producers, wineries, but more importantly, we've had these discussions with some folks from the governor's office also about trying to get this going. In addition, we have a legislative agenda, and we work very closely with VACO. One of our board members is a regular representative on VACO. So those are the kinds of questions I would like to have with you.
Sure.
And connect and try to figure out how to set up a time when maybe I can get our board member with me also that works with VACO, and we can discuss a few of the things we've tried to do and what you're doing. And
I'd be happy to do that at your convenience.
Okay. I'll get your email address after.
Okay.
Serena, were you able to get Pat's question?
Nope, not yet. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. How about from the rest of the committee? Do you have anything else for Scott?
Really appreciate.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Donna.
I thought that was very helpful for us to know as we move forward with, as Supervisor Palmer was just saying, it kind of makes me feel a lot better about the things that we can pursue to try and improve our glass recycling. So I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Margaret?
Yeah, so I wanted to hear your thoughts, Scott, on what it will take to get a glass beneficiation plant in Virginia, because the source separated drop-off programs are great, but they are not really going to divert the volume of glass that it would to be able to collect what people are putting in the curbside programs and what's coming out of MRFs. So, and in some ways, they're kind of feel-good programs, because the glass is getting diverted, but in the grand scheme of things, they really aren't the solution. So what's the glass industry doing to encourage a glass beneficiation plant, opening in somewhere like Virginia? And what would it take? What are the barriers, and what would it take for that to happen here? Because I think that's the key to meaningful glass recycling here.
No, absolutely. And since I started a year ago, and I started in my own backyard here in Arlington, right? Because, Arlington had just dropped glass from the curbside bin, like a month before I started here. And I'm like, So
I used to be the recycling coordinator in Arlington.
Okay,
Before glass was still recycled there, but yeah, I used to live in Arlington too. So I'm familiar with all that.
I take the points, it's absolutely true. The hierarchy here is, if we had a MRF, a single stream system that was well served by good MRFs that processed all the materials well and produced decent enough quality. It doesn't have to be 95% glass coming out of a MRF. these facilities are geared to being able to clean up, a good 15 to 20% of the material. But when the MRFs are delivering 40% glass on a load or 60% glass on a load, it makes the transportation costs, uneconomic to get the material from point A to point B. And then Wilson just has to figure out what to do with the 30% of the ton that is not glass. They have to landfill it. So a lot of these times they've been exporting their landfilling cost ultimately to a secondary processor. Okay. I am actively engaged in the recycling partnership now, and was put on the board there. So we're working with the recycling partnership to improve access all across the country and working on some specific glass programs there. The Glass Recycling Coalition has started a MRF certification program where MRFs can get certified as meeting. There are national standards for what they should be producing. Okay. There is an international standard for quality for marketable material coming out of a MRF. Most of our MRFs don't meet that standard, but some do. And we're trying to encourage people to do that. And so the Glass Recycling Coalition, one of the programs that we started there was a MRF certification program, and it's free. All they have to do is gather up the material, send it in. There'll be a team of analytics that goes through to figure out whether they're meeting the spec or not. But then we'll also come back with a series of recommendations about what's necessary at a particular MRF to do that. We had like 3 MRFs cleared through the certification program in 2019, and there's about 10 in the pipeline right now. I can't say that there's any in Virginia right now, but in other jurisdictions, some of the MRFs are going through this. And I am on probably webinar after webinar after webinar through COVID. Kind of changed my whole travel schedule from conference to conference to doing as many of these kinds of conversations as I possibly can. I've done Tennessee, Texas, Florida, South Carolina, Michigan, Pennsylvania. I'm doing the Northeast next week or 2 weeks, from now. So as often as I can be out there preaching the idea and just educating people about the reality of glass recycling and where there are actually end markets near them, it seems to help a lot. But we're also looking at ways that we can actually make, partnership donations. The Closed Loop Fund did a big study for us a few years ago. It was just very daunting because they said we needed about $30 million to invest in MRFs around the country to clean up the glass stream. And it's not the kind of money that the glass industry has, right now to invest in waste management facilities. So, but it's there, and that knowledge is there, right? And so we're trying to do all we can. I would say this. When I came in and we dealt with the situation that we have, I started asking the question, what good is 100 tons of glass that can't be used versus 20 tons of glass that can go back into bottle to bottle? And so we are encouraging the Northern Virginia Purple Bin program mostly as a way to get some glass into the system, to feed the system, because the plants want more. Lastly, I think, and this is a big commitment that I think will make a difference. The industry is studying right now, and will probably make I can't commit to exactly when we'll make the announcement, but we're hoping to, by the end of the year, make an announcement that the industry has set a goal of getting the national average for recycled content from 33% up to 50% in the average bottle made in America. So right now, even today, with the system as bad as it is, 1/3 of your average bottle is recycled content, if that bottle is made in North America. Okay, I can't speak to Chinese glass imported through distributors, but if North American glass is 1/3 recycled content, and we want to get to 50%. It's just that we have to make it, we can't do it at twice the price of raw materials. So we're undertaking the study to try to figure out how to get more glass into the pipeline so that we can get more usable cullet out of the end of the pipe and back into the glass plants.
So Scott, I'm sensitive of time because we're quite a ways over, and there's one thing we have to read into the record this evening. But I want to thank you so much because I think this was really super helpful for everybody to hear. I also wanted to note that Jesse, who is on the committee but is working with UVA, said that they hand sort 40 tons of glass a year at UVA.
Wow.
From the university, and that goes to Wilson as well. So I think that the message for me is I think there's a lot of opportunity in drop-off glass. I think we need some help. You didn't hear an earlier conversation, but we are from COVID. All of the localities are really strained. I think that we have a current drop-off system. It sounds like we're doing the right thing. I think there's a question about how we could support expanding it in our county and in our area. Yep. So, I look forward to the follow-up conversations with you about that. So just want to thank you again.
Okay.
I'd like
Thank you
to
very
ask
much.
a quick question.
Oh,
Scott,
yeah, sure.
Before you go, I'm sorry. As a complimentary thing, is the Glass Packaging Institute considering doing anything with bottle reuse?
Oh, absolutely. There are several industries and some pilots that are going on with reuse and refillable programs. We're very supportive of the Oregon. There's an Oregon program. And I've been talking in OBRC. It's a collection of craft breweries that all got together to do a refill rewashing program. Now those bottles are same glass as any other bottle. They're a little bit more resilient, so they're thicker and a little bit heavier than your average, single-use bottle. But they go through the system 25 times, and they start returning back to you in carbon savings after the third or fourth use. So, but you need a group of them to come in together to go purchase enough of those bottles to get a system going, and then a sanitization and distribution program amongst the things. But they come with special labels that come off really easily, and kind of any one bottle might be in one brewery today and the next brewery the next time through its its life cycle. But we support that, and we also are working with the dairy industry to increase the return of the refillable milk bottle to your front porch.
Good. I'm glad to hear that you're supporting those kind of efforts as well.
Absolutely. It's one of the benefits of glass is it can be used infinitely over and over again.
And it's clean.
And no interaction with food or beverage. Yep.
Okay, Scott, we're also getting a request asking if you would be willing to share your PowerPoint with the
Sure,
group.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll put you send it to you in an email, or send it to whoever you tell me to.
You can send it to me and I'll distribute it.
Okay.
And then Liz, I will send you Scott's email as well. He has it listed here so you guys connect. So with that, I think let's wrap up this section. Thank you very much. And Serena is just going to read one thing into the record that by Scott that came in through this person tried to ask questions, but it actually has to do with plastic. So I just wanted to make sure that we made sure it got on the record for this call. So Serena, you want to read that?
Sure thing. This is a transcript of a voicemail that Pat left on the public input platform. And I'm sorry, we had some glitches with the Zoom platform and unmuting that. So I will read it as clearly as I can. This is Pat Calvert. Thanks to Sean Tubbs for alerting me of this very important discussion you're having today on SB 11 from Senator Evan and the very important opportunity. I think the very important opportunity I think the county has before it to significantly reduce plastic trash and single-use plastics in the community and in water. I think it's wonderful that the county is looking into this. It probably needs to be done very closely and in tandem with other localities around you that would potentially be a source of bags, so mainly Charlottesville. I think it would just make the most sense for it to be done as close to the same time as possible and with similar requirements. It would pose a burden on making those changes for retailers, which need our support in these days. Anyway, I appreciate it and look forward to hearing more about this whole initiative. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Serena. I appreciate that. So I want to make sure that we just had that on the record. So thank you, Pat. hopefully you're still listening in. We've gone quite a bit over. So I think with that, let's call it a day and, you know, formally end the meeting. So thanks, everybody. Stay well, stay safe, and see you at our subcommittee meetings in a couple weeks.
Thank you.